Okay. They told me my notes would be in front of me. They're no longer in front of me. I just want to tell you that I'm speaking here today because I was at my first BSides in 2017, and I'm giving back to the community because I love a community that shares what it learns and teaches each other, and so I want you all to be here hopefully sooner than 5 years from now, speaking yourselves. So wait, that was supposed to be... Yeah. See if we can get it to work. Okay, okay, so my talk, I'm really glad it followed on the one before, because the one before is a huge amount of information. And I think one of the challenges in cybersecurity analysis is the fact that there is just so much information. And we're all fishing in the same sea, but we're all looking for something different. In other words, a person who's working for a cybersecurity company is looking at information for one thing, and the person who owns a regular company and needs to defend their company from malware, like you just saw, needs different information. And they're all looking in the same, and people who are working on cyber policy for governments are looking for other information, but we're all looking at the same data. So the question is, how do you take that massive amount of information and make it accessible for all these different uses? So, there are a number of different models. This is only a chart of only 3 of them, of which I'm speaking about the diamond model, and which was actually developed by 3 researchers, I believe in 2013, and their intro discussion of their model was over 45 minutes, but don't worry, my talk is 20 minutes in total, so you're getting the Cliff Notes version. Come back here. Okay. Okay, I guess these are out of order. So the diamond model basically uses a diamond, and what it uses is there's at least 2 levels to it. The first level is each corner is one of the 4 major pieces of data that you're looking for when you have a breach. And the breach, and that data is who got hit, who got hurt, who did the hurting, capabilities is how they did it, and the infrastructure is by what means did they do it. Actually, the capability is what you have to defend from, or what the attacker has to use to attack with, like the malware, for example. I think we just skipped again. Okay, so once you have the information, first of all, one of the things that the diamond model shows you, even though it looks very simple, what it is, it's a place to hang all that information. It's a way to organize it and show you what information do you have, and what information are you still missing, and what do you need to look for. Once you have that information, then you can start working with the Lockheed kill chain and start figuring out what's going on, what happened, what really happened, and what do you need to do to keep it from happening next time. So although it started with one simple diamond, each diamond represents an individual event. So what you have here is, now that you've figured out what they did, how they did it, how they're going to possibly use it again, you can now then look and plan and think, how can we defend against this? So now that you know that you're at least looking for in a forest, or where, the question is now, what do you do with it? Okay, I got. Okay, so this is a 1-minute introduction to the actual breach that I'm going to show how you use the diamond model for, assuming I can get it to play. Thanks. Okay, so you don't get the video, so the one thing that I missed on the diamond is there's the second level of the diamond is actually the axis. You know, the vertical axis is the victim and the attacker, and the question is, what's their relationship? In other words, were they attacked for a specific reason, or was it a random attack? And then obviously the second axis from right to left is your technology, you know, all the technology that was being used. So the WhatsApp breach occurred in 2019, and you'll be happy to know that it was very quickly fixed. But what it was the ability for an attacker to send an SMS to a WhatsApp, or actually they called a number on the WhatsApp app, and even if the recipient didn't answer, it still installed the malware on their software. On their cell phone, and it was used to track and harass a number of people, and allegedly one person was killed by a government agency from Saudi Arabia as a result of being attacked through this breach. Okay, so this basically the reason I wanted to. The victims were clearly the clients that bought a software called Pegasus from a company called NSO, which happens to be an Israeli company. I'm pretty sure it still exists. And it sells software it exports software to companies that it claims are vetted and approved by the Israeli government. The WhatsApp app made it very clear that there are a number of these clients. And in particular, Saudi Arabia was the first one identified, but since then, China and India have been implicated as well. And so the victim of this particular breach was all the people that these governments want to target. And obviously, when WhatsApp filed in US court against NSO, they listed themselves as the victim, but they weren't really the victim. The victim was their users who were attacked and harassed, and eventually some of them killed. So the question with the capabilities was Pegasus software, which is actually a group of pieces of malware, not just one particular item. And it was obviously deployed through the WhatsApp mobile infrastructure, and it worked on all of them. It works on Android, it works on iPhone, and it worked on, back then, people still using BlackBerries. Okay, so we discussed the victim. So no. And we discussed the adversary. So the capabilities I also mentioned was Pegasus. Okay, well, we got to that. And the infrastructure was, as we said, your mobile phone and your mobile phone provider. Okay, so now, what do you do with all the information? Okay, as we saw in the previous, we've probably seen all day, there's just so much information. What do you do with it? So it depends on who you are and what you need it for. So it can be used for making government policies. It can be used for figuring out how to defend yourself. It can be used for figuring out how to attack if that's what you do. And so what I chose was this, cyber policy. I chose cyber policy because I'm a dual U.S. citizen. I served in the U.S. Army in maintenance and worked for the FAA in critical infrastructure, and I now live here. So for me, I was very interested in the political implications of such a multinational attack. And as you can see, several of those major questions are who gets to decide who gets to buy this? And obviously people in the US weren't too happy. And the question is who can export to where? So I don't know why this should have been. One of the other things you could do is you can take, as I discussed when I showed you the diagrams, but this is the Lockheed kill chain using the same information. And one of the reasons this is very helpful is because, as you can see, you can really, it's really obvious what information you have and what information you're missing. And the kill chain basically tells you the point of no return. At what point in your analysis and at what point of attack or a breach can you still defend, and at what point is it too late? Yeah, this all sounds very simple, but when you've got massive amounts of information, the question is, how do you organize it? And that's what the diamond model was designed to do, was to organize this. And only once you have your analysis do you know what you're really looking at. This is not really. So the political social analysis is usually done on 3 levels. It's on the organization level, on the state, national, multinational level, and the level of transnational, which most people would probably refer to as international. So on the on the organizational level, obviously we have a number of Israeli companies who produce cyber defense software. I don't need to say anything that there are a number of places in the world that create malware. And the offices of both those companies many times have direct contact, not through government agencies, not necessarily asking governments for permission, but they have direct contact and direct relations to sell their software to whoever they feel like. The question is, should that be the case? Should that not be the case? Okay, on the national level, every country has obviously different laws. So the question is, what's good for one country may not be good for another country. The US is not very happy with people spying on their citizens. On the other hand, they have been caught doing it several times. Right now in Germany, there are new laws authorizing major surveillance of their people. And the EU in general has increased their privacy and other cyber security requirements for people who are operating legally. The question is, what about people who may not be? So with regards to making policy, these are the big questions. If you're selling something that's hurting people, do you have the right to do that? If so, who has the right to do that, and who decides who gets that right? And now, according to NSO, they changed their policies, but they're still selling. The question is, who's deciding what and where? And ensuring transparency of the actual tools that are being used. Well, we all have the internet. We probably all use the internet to research most of what we do in terms of finding out what's out there, but how transparent is what's really there? And how transparent should it be? And then, of course, with the particular WhatsApp breach, what happened to people's human rights and what happens going forward? So my takeaway for this was basically what I started. We're all fishing in the same sea. We're all using the same data. The question is, what are we using it for, and how do we make use of it? And the diamond model is one particular very useful tool for showing us what we have, what we don't have, and then being able to build on that, to build into the Lockheed model and the kill chain, and be able to create software and policy that helps us deal with the problems that we have today with the internet and other malware issues. So, thank you. Is there any questions? Okay.
Thank you very much. Questions, anyone?
You mentioned like who has the authority. You mentioned who has who is the authority to allow those companies like NSO to sell? And I'm not from NSO, but I know that they had to get a permit from the government to sell to government agencies of certain countries who are on the white list, okay? Not to those that, and the question is actually who gives the authority to sell weapon, not cyber weapon, to all the countries. And the US is the largest exporter, and us as well, and we sell to whoever pays.
Right, so excellent question. The question is who actually makes this decision, and it's not always clear. And that was on one of the slides that didn't really show up well. And that's exactly why I was interested in the cyber policy issue of the breach, because the breach is pretty cut and dry what happened. The question is now what do we do now that we've seen this happen? And that is the giant question, is who decides whether NSO can sell it or export it in the first place, and who decides to whom they can sell it. And that is an office in the Israeli government which I'm not necessarily in a position to state. I don't know. I can find out that's one of the things I'm actually researching to find out who. That's part of the whole social political issue, and that's one of the things that makes this whole analysis very interesting, because it's not cut and dry. Yeah, the technical part's cut and dry. What happened? And maybe who got hurt? But the implications are far from cut and dry, and that's what made this analysis project very interesting to research. And I'm still working on it. And yes, I would, if you'll give me information afterwards, if I find out who in the Israeli government, if it's public information, I'm sure it is, yeah, but I just have to look it up. And also the same thing with the U.S. The question is, okay, let's say the NSO got approval to sell it, and they sold it to Saudi Arabia. Well, back in 2019, maybe Saudi Arabia was not such a friend of the U.S. So can or should the U.S. be able to say, no, you can't sell it, even though the Israeli government says, yes, you can? And that's where the transnational issues come in, and that's what makes this whole thing very, on one hand you could say naughty, meaning N-O-T-T-Y, meaning K-N-O-T-T-Y, meaning thorny, meaning complicated, or you want to just take what we call here the Rosh Katan, which is the small-minded, meaning just do the simple thing, and that never works. It's far beyond, and it's very complicated, and that's what makes this kind of analysis very interesting, because the answer you come up with, the answer I come up with may not be the same thing, and the answer the NSO came up with obviously was not the same thing. Okay, next question.
Anyone else? Any more questions? Okay, Shira, thank you very much.